with hilarity and opinion with Jamie, Simon and Hutch. The Newcastle Comparison, live weekly on NUFC Talk Radio, on YouTube and in all your listening platforms. NUFC Talk Radio, the voice of the Toon Army.
All right, good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Newcastle Comparison this fine Sunday night. We are indeed live. Welcome, Mr. Simon Carhill, as you've decided to call yourself tonight.
I'll try and fix that as we go on. Evening, Jamie.
Evening. And the miserable mag himself, good evening to Mr. David Hutchington. And you've just gone with a very brief Hutch.
I have gone with a very brief Hutch, yes.
So, we've got a little bit of cover here, not as much as the jamboree that we did last week, but basically just the one game to go over, but quite a lot in front of us. First things first, we are going to look at Newcastle United 2, Burnley 1. So we'll kick off with that. We'll have a little look back at a comparison with some things that have happened in past history, and we'll basically look ahead to the coming weeks and see how we feel about everything in general. But the only place to start is St James Park on Saturday. A nice vanilla 3 o'clock kickoff. Bit of a miserable day in many ways, but that's okay. Newcastle 2, Burnley 1. And I'm torn here between thinking positive thoughts, because with the week ahead, we just needed the win. And then a slightly negative slant, because you're talking about a newly promoted team that look like they're heading back down. Lost 5 on the bounce. Haven't really done anything to revamp their squad for the Premier League. And they were down to 10 men for most of the game. And with like 1 minute of injury time left, we nearly blew a 2-goal lead, didn't we? So I think this is your bag, Hutch. Do you consider this to have been a bad thing or a good weekend?
Well, getting into that, first of all, I would like to say that it wasn't just 1 minute, was it? Because what should have been 1 minute of additional time, given that he only gave 3 additional minutes, he somehow managed to find an additional 6 after that penalty had been taken.
Yeah.
For which they nearly scored. So we nearly lost the game because another referee has basically found additional time out his backside and just allowed play to go on. But then in that game, we didn't control. Well, within that last period of the game, we didn't control the game still. We didn't control what we should have done. I mean, when Tonali came on, he ran straight to the corner with the ball. Granted, ended up getting tackled by like 3 people. But then no one else was trying to do that. No one else was trying to basically simmer it down, calm it down, keep hold of the ball, and just see out the game. Everyone just seemed to be panicked. And it's a bit of a theme that we do this. You consider like all the games that we've lost or we've ended up drawing this season from either winning or drawing positions. It has been by these late goals, and it does seem as well that we are always trying to either hold on to a lead or push on to get an additional goal and score that additional goal in order to win the game. And in those particular states of the game, we always end up conceding, either from a dodgy set piece, giving away a penalty, or just being completely transitioned up the field where we just lose the ball and effectively the other team just has the ability to run down and score quite an easy goal. You know, you think in Liverpool, you think of Brentford.
Yeah, I think
last week.
I agree with your point about the ref finding way too much injury time. And I think because what happened was Burnley scored the penalty, and then with like the last move of the game, they sent a cross over, which saw 3 Burnley players pretty much unmarked in the 6-yard box, and the cross narrowly evaded all of them. Any of them gets a touch and they've got a draw. So I agree with you that injury time was ludicrous. It came out of nowhere, but it's also right what you say that that we just don't seem to have the game management. and that's cost us big time. Simon, are you a bit worried that this is going to persist, or do we just take the positives out of beating Burnley?
I'm going to start positively. That's a game that we controlled. Like, obviously, the red card had a big impact just before half time, but we controlled the majority of that game. And before the red card, we looked like they weren't gonna cause us an issue. I think Joe Willock had a great game from his start as well. I think he was one of the strongest players on the day for us, which is really positive going into like Europe this week, and obviously a busy fixture period as well. So there were good things to take from this game, right? Lewis Hall got a break. He needed it because we know he's a better left back than Dan Burn. Even though we love the man Dan Burn, like Lewis Hall's a different level in the left back position. So we need him fit, especially for games like Leverkusen midweek as well. So look, it wasn't a perfect game, but good teams win without being perfect, I think, and I think that was a good result. However, the last minute wobbles, even if there are more minutes than there typically should have been, that's an issue, and it's something that we've talked about before.
Yeah, and hopefully, like something that we won't be talking about again because it mean it's happened pretty much every week. But I think if we'd have thrown those points away there, it would have put a very, very, very different slant on the games ahead, and we have got some games ahead. Burnley. I mean, I thought I saw on Match of the Day, Scott Parker said it was the best performance of the season. I think they did that classic kind of go down to 10 men and find a little bit something extra that teams tend to do. But, I mean, they're just a polished up championship side, aren't they? Is that harsh?
No, I don't think so. Hutch and I were talking halfway through the match, and you'll remember this, Hutch, which might make us look a bit daft, but we'll go there anyway. We were saying we didn't recognise any of that. Like, we couldn't say the name of a Burnley player at the start of the game until we realised that Martin Dubravka was in goal. Yeah. And I went, oh yeah. Apart from that, though, what have Burnley ever done for us? No. So yeah, there's not a lot of big names in the Burnley squad at the moment, and they do have Championship written all over them. As we were saying when we walked out the ground, I don't think they've got much for hope in the Premier League this season. They're not going to be the plucky upstarts who, unfortunately, we're probably going to play on Sunday, who have come up this season. So. They haven't got a lot going for them, but they seem to have a lot of character throughout the game. They kept going. They didn't let us batter them, even though we did control the game for long periods due to more quality in the first half and then more men in the second. But I do think, though, they're a poor side.
Part of the reasons why we didn't batter them is simply because those old frustrations came back to haunt us again. We aren't creating enough big opportunities to actually score those goals. So we did well on set pieces today. Bruno did particularly well from a certain corner. But other than the goal that we scored and the penalty, then I don't think that we created a massive amount of goal scoring opportunities. Yes, Gordon hit the post, and Dubravka had to pull off a bit of a worldly save from a deflection from his own guy. But other than that, I can't really.
And it was 7 shots to 3 on target, and we had 17 shots in total. So
I think that's misleading, isn't it? Because I remember some of those shots were shots only in name. I think like Ramsey and Elanga had a couple that just Dubravka could have thrown his cap on.
Yeah, exactly. There weren't big chances. Yeah.
And then the actual goals were well, I mean, scoring direct from a corner is a freak goal, isn't it?
First time it's been done by a Newcastle player in the Premier League. Yep.
I was going to say that, yeah. First time I remember it in my life. Apparently the 20th time it's happened in the Premier League. But Bruno will probably say he was aiming for that. And Bruno tried to do it again later in the game. And he made a right dog salad of it. And he also tried to do something. This massively went to his head, didn't it? Because he tried to do something with a free kick. and knocked some lady's glasses off in the laser's end. But it was, and it was one of those things where it sort of went in the net, and there was like a little moment in the ground where I think where everyone was like, "What's happened there? Oh shit, it's a goal!" And then up we went. But sweet though it is to score mad goals like that. And I know they're playing the old low block, whereby it's very frustrating at times, but it's not really getting the goals that that could win your games going forward. Obviously, the other one was a penalty. But Johan Wissa came on the pitch. Is he going to change that a little bit? Are we going to get more crappy, scruffy goals where the centre forward just biffs it in from the penalty spot now that Wissa's in the team? We got a bit more hope for him, lads?
Well, he certainly looked capable, didn't he? I mean, he probably had the same number of touches in the penalty area that Voldemort did for the entirety of the rest of the game. I remember, like, at one point, it was really close to the extra time where he kind of like got the ball in the penalty area and he forwarded it to Hall, but it looked easier to shoot. And I do wonder if that's a bit of rust there. So maybe. Obviously, like, Eddie Howe came out after the game and said, yeah, he started, but effectively this is his first game back after a pre-season. So maybe don't expect them to see him like starting anytime this week. But hopefully, he'll be involved against Leverkusen. He'll be involved on Sunday. And yeah, we need another Mackem star, so why not him?
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? I think we'll come on to that in a bit, but I think you'd soon forget, 18 games missed in 3 and 4 months on the canvas if he announces his arrival next Sunday. Okay. Overall, though, I think we look back at that Burnley game, and it's one of those where if you look at the fixture list a few years down the line and you look at the season, I think you look at that and say, we beat Burnley 2-1, and I don't remember that game. And you maybe, if you looked deeper and saw it was a game where Bruno scored direct from a corner, that might come to you a little bit. But it's one of those games where ordinarily I wouldn't sweat it, because teams that win the league and things like that, they have results like that where they face stubborn sides. They eke out a crappy result. I think another point, Simon, good usage of the squad. You touched on Joe Willock had a good game, which I agree with. I thought Alanga was okay. Thought Anthony Gordon had his best game of the season.
Yeah, he looked like a threat. And again, you got to grade that against the opposition. Hopefully he looks as busy against Leverkusen in midweek as well. But I think when we played our standard team game before the match to guess who was in the opening lineup, we struggled with the centre midfield. We tripped over a couple of times because there was a few the changes in there for Ramsey and Willock coming in with Bruno in the middle. And I was actually really excited for it. Like, I thought there's a lot of running in that team. Like, Gordon, obviously, and Alanga, and then Ramsey and Willock. There's a lot of legs in that team, and I think that was the game plan, to get around Volta and create chances by just running over them, essentially. And it was working. Like, I think, as I said before, we were controlling the game. So, I think that was a good example of using the squad, and a good rest, as I said before, for Lewis Hall as well. I think they're not ever going to be the biggest threat, and
no.
Where Dan Burn's been at left back and not done great this season, I don't think that was going to be a problem on that day. So, especially with all the running we had in midfield. So, yeah, I think it was what we needed to get done with the squad that we have. Yeah.
I think if we beat Burnley 2-1 and go on to win the next couple of games by the same margin, that vindicates it more than hammering Burnley by 6 or 7 and then the wheels coming off spectacularly. But we shall see. Before we come on to next week, I'm going to go back in time from a Burnley perspective. Well, I'll tell you what, actually, let's have a little look and see what do we think of Burnley. So we will have a quick look at the old grade. But, well, actually, I'll do that in a moment. But what do we think in terms of where they sit, lads? We're the
They're a
Burnley.
yo-yo team,
So
aren't they?
from an audible point of view, we've got all the teams in the Premier League, and we're ranking them from worldwide fame: massive, big, medium, small, and tin pot.
Can we?
So Hutch, Burnley.
Go on, Hutch. You go first.
Well, you can't say that the tin pot because back in the day they were a very big team, weren't they? But again, going back to our last week's conversation when we discussed Tottenham, Everton, and City, recency bias is a thing. So I would say small, simply on the basis that they have become a bit of a yo-yo club. And you look at the likes of Vincent Kompany, who's effectively used Burnley as a stepping stone for a bigger job. And
come on, Bayern Munich, a massive job. It's not like it's not like he's had a few months there and then swanned off to Crystal Palace, is it? It's and I don't disagree with a lot of what you said there, but
yeah,
if Bayern nicking players, well, I mean, we take players that they want, I suppose, so we can see what we like. But if Bayern nicking players is a yardstick of being small, then that's bad news. Well, that's bad news for the entire bloody Bundesliga for a start.
no,
Simon,
but the yo-yo element of it.
They're Granville.
This is just giving me PTSD after the Everton Tottenham massive debate last time. But I think I've got to agree with Small. So their ground, I know ground capacity is one component of a bigger picture, but it's 20,000. So if you're looking at like the Brentfords, the Bournemouths of this world, they've got smaller grounds. They haven't had the opportunity to build them up yet. But like you say, there's some legacy to Burnley as well. So I'd agree with Small. I think Fulham and Burnley are kind of on a par.
They've been English champions. I think, have they won the FA Cup in their history? So there's a bit there. They've always kind of been thereabouts. I think they might have had a couple of spells in the sort of League One territory in the not too distant past. But they've always had a pretty solid support. They've got a few celebrity fans. But I think, well, I'd be outvoted if I said any different, but I agree with you that they are probably small. I'm going to do that because I think they're a slightly... can I do that? I think they're a slightly bigger club than Fulham. So I'm just going to switch them around with them in the way they're presented in the small field. But I guess that's it, isn't it? And the point I made in my match report for the Mag, Newcastle's longest serving fans magazine, was that this sort of game didn't used to come along at all. If you go back a few years, this game was absolutely thankless against Burnley because we went there and nothing less than a win would do, and we expected to win. I think we all expected to win. We feared not winning, but everyone would have expected to win. And what you had in the past was you had games where we were favourites, yeah, or where you'd hope to win, but you didn't go in there expecting to win. And maybe this is part of getting bigger because it's not that enjoyable going in and knowing that any other outcome, and it's put a bit of a crimp in your weekend or ruined it, depending on how big the game is. But it's a good sign of progression that those sort of games are back. Do you know what I mean? Where you go there and you expect to win, you do win, you settle for whatever it is, and we're going to have to settle for the odd 2-1 in this sort of game, I think. Okay. I thought we'd get that in because I've got a comparison look back to the past, and I've decided to focus in on Burnley a little bit. Going a mere 4 years ago, it took me ages to work out how many years 2021 was back, right? I don't know if you noticed me sort of tripping over my words there while I try to do 5 minus 1. But yeah, we beat Burnley 1-0. Do you remember this game? 2021 season?
Very vaguely, but only because I know the scorer on the day.
Go on, who was the scorer?
Which was Callum Wilson. Yeah, 1-0.
It was
Against Sean
Callum
Dyche's
Wilson.
Burnley. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first win for Eddie Howe, the first win for the new ownership regime at Newcastle United. It was actually a bit of an error by the Burnley goalkeeper, Nick Pope, that led to Wilson. He kind of dropped it, if you remember, under a challenge from Shea. And Wilson sort of booted in the loose ball. And we held out for it, and it was to be our only win until mid-January. But we obviously stayed up and comfortable in mid-table, and Burnley went down that season and then came back up and then went back down and then came back up, and we'll see what happens this year. So probably a bit of a critical one that. We actually relegated Burnley on the last day of the season, if you remember. But Hutch, is it another one of those games that is just completely non-memorable, even though it's a bit of a landmark?
To be honest, I didn't remember it. I kind of like, and I think we've already like hit upon this. I kind of remember Leeds as being that kind of like that turning point,
Yeah.
rather than that particular game. But it doesn't surprise me because like you do tend to get those kind of like, I mean, we were quite close to the bottom of the table at that point. We probably were bottom or 19th at the time.
I have not researched that.
That doesn't surprise me.
We stayed up was the overall topic,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
exactly.
So, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, so like teams down the bottom do tend to like take points off each other, but then obviously that turning point came in Leeds, and that's when we basically started on that upward trajectory and were effectively, as you say, mid-table by the end of the season. But yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me. But again, I can't remember it.
Great stuff. Well, I should point out, listeners, that Hutch doesn't remember much. He forgot to put his trousers on for the match on Saturday. And maybe we'll get to that Leeds game in about 6 weeks' time. But that was a pretty seismic match. But yeah, quite a nice bit of symmetry. I think that 4 years ago we did have another workman-like 1-goal win against Burnley that we held out for at home. But it was a relegation 6-pointer, whereas this, as I say, has evolved to be a match where we expect us, a top team, to beat them. A team that, unfortunately for them, is still very much relegation fodder. So, right, chaps, what else went on this week in history? Simon, have you got anything that you would like to bring to the table?
Yeah, I've got a random one. It's following on from one of our last conversations around the Adam Pardew days. So,
him,
yeah. So on the 7th of December in the 2013-2014 season, we broke a very long-running duck. Does anybody know what that duck might be?
Was it?
No, we only just scored. We've just talked about that, man. We've just said it was the first Newcastle player to do it.
No. I think what I was going to say, what I think he meant was like, not as in put the corner directly in, but
scored generally for just scoring a header from a corner. Yeah. No, it wasn't that.
Was a thing then.
It was a result against.
Season.
Yeah, it was a result against the team.
We suspected that that opposition teams got wise back then that we were so bad at corners.
They just booted the ball out.
They were deliberately booting it out for corners because it was safer than giving away a throw-in.
Yeah, it was horrific. Yeah.
So it's actually quite nice to see us scoring from corners now.
Yeah, quite consistently at the moment.
Is it Liverpool?
It is not. No.
Manchester United.
Correct. So on the 7th of December 2013, we went away to Man United and we won 1-0, which broke a duck that existed for, I think, 41, 42 years since 1990.
I will have to take your word for this because I couldn't watch the match.
Yes, because why couldn't you watch the match, Jamie?
I couldn't watch the match because some thick, daft clot decided to have his child baptised while we were battering Man United in their old backyard.
Yeah.
So we
I
was stood in the church whispering around to people, Kabay has scored.
Actually, I think you'll find it was at the afters. because it was actually on the TV, and you weren't whispering it; you were shouting it. I could have gone to this match.
Yeah, was I there as well? I can't
Yes, you
remember
were.
this. Yeah, I must have had a drink by that point. But yeah,
This is not how I remember it.
Well, I've got to tell you, mate, that's exactly how it happened.
So yeah, just on the back of that conversation we had about the Pardew days as well, this season was probably the pinnacle of Pardewiness. Although we actually finished in a decent position, the season before we'd finished 16th, the season after we scraped through by staying up and Jonas Gutierrez keeping us up on the last day against West Ham. This season we finished 10th, but it was a serious tale of two halves. So
Yeah.
the first half of the season, we played 20 games. We got 33 points, 10 wins, 3 draws, 7 losses. The second half, we got 16 points from 18 games, 5 wins and 12 losses, including a run of 6 or 7 games on the bounce without winning, losing, not even drawing, losing. And one critical part of that was selling Kabay in the January. Obviously, he wanted to go. He was going back to his hometown club. But him and Sissoko were kind of setting up Blake Remy, who we bought on loan from QPR for the season, who was our top scorer, ended the season on 14. But yeah, it was like the Man United results seemed to be the pinnacle of that season. And then after we sold Kabay in January, it all went rapidly downhill. And we finished on 49 points or something like that.
I went to White Hart Lane around that time and we won there as well, because you're right, the first half of the season was really optimistic and you thought, here's another European campaign, and then it was like someone just let the air out. The Kabay thing was a big part of that. But
yeah, we beat Spurs in the November 1-0 away. Yeah,
I was at that one. I wasn't at the Man United one because some inconsiderate, selfish, clumpy slipper decided to book the date out. Anyway, that's all in the past, isn't it? Hutch, do you remember anything at all about this? did anybody let you go to any games in the past that you might want to bring up?
Well, it's not a game I actually went to, but you mentioned that this was the 20th time that an Olympico, or what it is called, has been scored in the Premier League. Yeah. I mean, I could get into why it's called an Olympico, but I don't really think it's very interesting. So,
do you not know?
I know exactly why it's called an Olympico.
But I want to know now.
Yeah. Is it the ground, Stadio Olimpico?
Was it only scored in the Olympics? Was it scored in the Olympics for the first time?
No, it was because, right, the guy who scored it was a guy called Cesaro Onzari, and he was playing for Argentina against Uruguay, who were Olympic champions at the time.
What a shitty tenuous link.
That is so tenuous. That is weak.
It's called. I know. And apparently it is because when he scored it, the commentator shouted "Goal Olympico," and that is why it's called an Olympico. But it's the first one because IFAB changed the rules a couple of months earlier to allow those goals. Previously, that would not have been a goal, and it would have been a forced retake of the corner.
That's mad.
It is mad, isn't it?
That's mad. It wouldn't be a goal. It's terrible why it's called that. Just to be very clear on what I mean.
However, so the game I've got
that's like the wankiest title of things since someone decided to call Greenland when it's clearly white and icy. Or whoever come up with a name for Newfoundland. What should we call this land we've newly found? Sorry, I'm off on a tangent. Go on, Hutch. What's your game?
So, Bruno scored our first one, obviously against Burnley. However, we have conceded the joint highest of these types of goals, which won't surprise you in the slightest.
It's a very us
Can
stat.
you remember the last one we conceded?
I think I can. Right.
No.
So it was that Everton game where Isak went on that mazy run and set up Jacob Murphy. So it was, I think we won 4-1 and I think we might have been like 3-0 up.
Yeah.
And I can't remember his name. It's that kid. It's Burnley again. It's that guy who Everton bought from Burnley, yes, who always has a good game against us.
Yeah, that's instantly come back to me now. Yeah. Oh.
So 3-0 down from 2 Wilson goals and a Joe Linton goal. and they have a corner, and Dwight McNeil sends it in. It bounces right in front of the post, and basically someone sticks a leg out at it. So Pope naturally thinks he's got a touch and sticks his leg out of it, and it bounces over Pope's leg and into the net.
See, that's a poxy way to score that, isn't it? Bruno's was just
It
class.
is.
It was like
Bruno smashed it in. Yeah, absolutely.
swiveled in, and not all this bouncing in the box.
But
More bounces in the box being allowed by Newcastle.
As you guys are aware, it didn't matter anyway, because first of all, we were already winning 3-0. And then what happened 1 minute later was that guy that we don't talk about anymore went on a mazy run. And, he kind of like, it was probably accidental. He knew
It was
he was
lucky.
over a
So
few
lucky.
times.
Yeah.
So
Murphy
lucky.
did most of the work, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then he knocked it across, and then Murphy with the most sublime shot that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Which is now put, and Murphy now a player on Liverpool's radar, by the way. So
Yeah.
it's part of his repertoire to score big goals like that. So
Are we gonna go into that? And
we have to take that segue.
We're going to take that
segue. Now it's come up organically, but like I think okay. So for anyone who doesn't know, Arne Slot said Liverpool are lacking a player like Jacob Murphy, and the internet just went woof of people who had said things when he's signed, like Liverpool have bought a top of the range iPhone, but have left the charger being Jacob Murphy, who made most of Isak's goals. And it was like Slot was kind of corroborating that. And then 24 hours later, Mo Salah says he's been thrown under the bus a little bit because he's been compared to Jacob Murphy and has not been adequate. And I think what Slot's saying is Isak thrived in the system Newcastle play with Murphy crossing it into the box, and Liverpool have sort of three greedy forwards cutting in and trying to score themselves, and that's not working out, and that's why you maybe can't expect as many goals out of Isak.
Yeah.
But do you suspect he might be wanting to buy Jacob Murphy?
Yeah, why not? They've got money to spend, money to burn, throw away, ruin, waste. So yeah, why not? No, I don't think Jacob Murphy's going to be making a trip across there, but it's nice to know that we're renting a room in their heads with the fact that we've taken 140 million off them for a player that isn't scoring the goals that he was designed to score for them. So yeah, it's just nice, isn't it?
I think the more and more... Go on.
I do wonder whether or not he's going to be there to spend the money on Jacob Murphy. Because if you cut a power play between Mo Salah and Arne Slot, then I mean the natural assumption would be, a manager who has just won the Premier League versus a 33-year-old winger who can only probably have one more season in him anyway. And yet, if you look on the socials, it's the fans have basically turned around and said, well, Salah's our king. And it's just,
of course he is.
It's just mad.
I mean, Salah's got so much credit in the bank there that it would be incredibly fickle for them to turn on him. Whereas Slot is basically doing what Arteta done. He's come in, he's won a big trophy in his first season with the last guy's team. Like, it was Klopp's team that won that Premier League. And, as the elements of that team sort of lose their powers a little bit or move on, and he's trying to change it for himself, it seems that he's not really doing a very good job of it so far. So I think you're right. I think they could make a move on him. He looks like he's kind of unraveling. He was, if you remember, after the League Cup final, he was quite a sort of genial, good loser. Came across really well, and now he seems to be getting more and more on edge every press conference. But if he is coming for Jacob Murphy, I'm going to say it now, needs to be 180, 200 million on the table.
Something around that.
It's a January transfer as well, so you've got to pay over the odds.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Jacob Murphy's only 30 as well, so he's got 4 or 5 seasons in him, unlike Mo Salah.
Shall we have a look at the week ahead then? Because I'm going to be honest, it's a bit of a biggie. Before we move on from the comparison stuff, Bayer Leverkusen, I have heard of them before. Have you, Hutch? Hutch, do you remember Bayer Leverkusen?
I do remember Bayer Leverkusen.
Good.
As a team. We have played them
But-
before.
We have, yeah. I was at the home game the last time we played them in the Champions League, which was in 2002-03. Now, history lesson, chaps. For a couple of daft seasons, the Champions League operated a second group phase, whereby instead of going into a knockout once you got through the group, you went. I think there was 4 more groups, and the top 2 teams then went in the quarterfinals from those groups, and we got through in dramatic fashion, beating Feyenoord at a time. And then we imploded a bit in our first game in the second group stage, losing at home to Inter Milan. And then we lost in Barcelona, so it wasn't going great. But we then recorded back-to-back victories against Leverkusen, who had done the thing. I think they'd got through the first group stage, and then they just kind of quit on the stool and said, we haven't got the capacity for the Champions League. So I might be wrong here. And again, I have not done my research, but I think they lost every game in that second group stage. But nonetheless, it was to be our last away win in the Champions League until we went and done USG the other week. So it lasted quite a while. And Alan Shearer with a hat-trick in the game I was at St James's Park. So good memories, even though we both ended up going out in that group stage. We got another point off Inter and then lost at home to Barca. But what about now? What about Bayer Leverkusen now? I'm hoping that one of you knows something about the current Bayer Leverkusen. Because everything I know about them is from 2 years ago when they won the Bundesliga. And my understanding is they've gone crap since then.
Well, they did go crap, but unfortunately, they're not crap anymore.
The harbinger of doom.
So they obviously signed the manager that we all know very well, Erik ten Hag, following the departure of Simon. Who was it? Who went there?
Xabi Alonso.
Xabi Alonso.
Yeah.
Even I knew that.
I know. I'm just tired, mate. I'm tired. It was a long night last night. So, yeah. So since then, they've actually started picking up wins. Well, a bit off and on. Recently, they beat Heidenheim 6-0. Obviously, we've never played Heidenheim. I couldn't tell you.
Did they give them a good hiding?
They did give them a good hiding. 6-0. So
where was that? Where was that played?
That was at Leverkusen.
So it was a Heim game.
So since then, they've also beaten Wolfsburg, beaten Manchester City.
Fine.
They lost to Dortmund, and actually, the last game they played was this weekend against Augsburg, which they lost 2-0. So maybe we're getting them at a good time, but they have kicked them dramatically since.
Do you think that augurs well then for our trip there?
The Manchester City game is like hanging over us like beating Man City.
Sword of Damocles.
Man City. So it's going to be a tougher game than it would have been if Erik ten Hag was manager, put it that way.
Yeah, but we've said that before, haven't we? Simon, do you think we need something here?
Yeah, no doubt. I think this should have been one of our toughest games. Obviously, we played Barcelona as well. Marseille, let's be honest, we should have won if it wasn't for a bit of an error from Nick Pope. So yeah, it's a tough one, this as well. The only kind of like some of the familiar names, not necessarily household names for Leverkusen, and some familiar names like Jeffrey Konza, who used to play Jarell Konza, he used to play for Liverpool. Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one, isn't it? So going away as well, and our recent experience in Germany wasn't the best either, where we got turned out twice by Dortmund.
It was a pretty
on the pitch,
brilliant
off the
experience.
pitch was unbelievable. Yeah,
kebabs, unbelievable.
Yeah, pints, lots of pints. But yeah, I think This is going to be
hang on.
a tough
We
game.
were on about this the other week, and you came back with a crumbly face from last time.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that one, was I? Because I was too busy in my hazmat suit after alleged hazmat suit. Yeah, it was an experience, wasn't it? A shared experience between friends, which seems to not stay on tour either. But hey ho. So yeah, if someone said you're going to draw to draw away to Leverkusen this week, I'd probably snap their hand off. I think that would be a good result.
It kind of. I think I'd take a draw. I think a draw puts us on 10 points. It does crank the pressure up for PSV coming to St James's Park, but that's the game where we really want to make sure. I've accepted that we're probably not going to make that top 8 after Marseille, because that would probably mean at least 2 wins and a draw from the remaining 3 fixtures.
Yeah, if we'd got anything out of the Marseille game, that would have built confidence, wouldn't it? But yeah, that really kind of deflated us, I think. And now we're on the back foot.
To be honest, I actually do think that we probably only need the 2 wins. But like you said,
to get in the top 8.
To get in the top 8, yeah, because there's going to be a lot of. I mean, even looking at that one, Leverkusen beating Manchester City is a bit of a strange event. And there seems to be these strange events in the Champions League that you just seem to come out of nowhere. So potentially, if we just won the 2 games, then I don't necessarily think that anything else would be needed. But
it's literally as simple as that.
PSV have only lost 1 in the Dutch league this season. Just to
but Dutch league's a right load of cludge, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? They're all the teams are all just letters.
Yeah, they are all acronyms. Yeah, absolutely, and that makes them terrible football teams.
Yes, right. Glad we agree. So, what are you predicting for Leverkusen then? Are we going to get something? It's hard to know, innit? It's hard to know which Newcastle's going to turn up.
I think I'd snap your hand off for 1-1, so I'm going to say 1-1, and that will go into my betting account, which I'll not cash out before I lose that bet.
How desperate were you trying to get your banking app at Burnley?
Oh, the Wi-Fi at St James's Park is non-existent, and neither is the 3G. And when we're at 2-0, I had us to win 3-0 with Anthony Gordon scoring at any time. I wish I'd cashed out, but there we go.
I must confess, I was telling you not to be such a big soft Jesse and to stick with your bet, and and it ended up not being 3-0. Yeah, but I think you were going the other way. You were thinking 10 men, 2-0. It's going to be 6 or 7 here. And
I was worried we were gonna run over them. Yeah, that was the problem. So yeah, that's why I was desperately trying to get to my phone. Not nearly draw.
Like, give it 5 minutes. Give it 5 minutes. Let them get the third. Your odds will go up when it's actually
third. And it's only a matter of time before that happens.
It's just passing it around midfield again. But yeah. So anyway, Leverkusen. Hutch, any predictions for Leverkusen?
I would like to hope that we get the win. So I'm going to say 2-1.
Oh.
Ooh, he's gone positive. So we're doomed. We are now officially doomed. You've cursed us. Good Lord.
Well, yeah, Patrick Schick and Guimaro to score, and Dan Burn to get a consolation.
Oh, 2-1 to them.
Oh, 2-1 to them? I thought you were being positive.
Yeah.
Okay, that's better. I feel so much better already. That's great. All is right with the world. Yeah.
Patrick Schick and who?
Guimaro. I believe it's called Guimaro.
He definitely play for Leverkusen.
I think he plays a left back, doesn't he? So he's like one of those because they play like an attacking.
So you're putting us down to get smashed up by the left back. Excellent.
He also scored against City. So
yeah. I think you do know that was like a complete second team that Man City put out as well, don't you? So that result is maybe a little bit of a.
As you say.
Do you mean Grimaldo?
Grimaldo, that's the one.
Good Lord.
Isn't he the bloke who was always after the Smurfs?
Different generation to me, Jamie.
Anyway,
But yeah, so you're predicting Leverkusen will win. But I mean, I think that's quite feasible, isn't it? I'm probably leaning towards a draw, and I would take a draw if you gave me it right now, because something else is coming up a few days later. Leverkusen on Wednesday, and then Sunday afternoon, for the first time in 10 years, the Premier League time we had derby. We are now 1 point behind Sunderland. The fact that we are behind Sunderland at all in December is horrifying. Fortunately, they've had an incredibly good season. So if we do get the result, get that point and get 2 points ahead, then we might very well be looking at being in the top 5, top 6. It's a big one, but let's start with, how do you feel about this one now?
Anxiety is probably the word. I was talking to a person of that persuasion in my office the other day, and it was all wrong. Like I should have been the overconfident, like chipper one, like thinking I'll take a draw. But we're the ones, like, we'd probably take a draw coming out of there at how things are at the moment. They'll be so up for it. It's going to be their biggest game of the season, I think, and yeah, it's going to be intense. So, I think 1-1, another 1-1 on the back of Leverkusen, and I'd happily walk out of there with that.
Hutch? Is their left back going to terrorise us as well?
Part of the issue is I don't have a clue who their left back is, so I wouldn't know. I do worry about the up and coming fixture, but one of the reasons why I said 2-1 to them, to Leverkusen, is because I kind of hope that he puts out a bit of a weaker team in order to kind of basically stay fresh for this match. I mean, we've got 3 big games coming up, haven't we? We've got the Leverkusen game in the Champions League, where I think if we lose that, it's not the end of the world, because we still do have that home game against PSV, and maybe PSG will just basically put their kids out in that last game. So
Absolutely.
There is a chance there. Then we've got Fulham coming up in the League Cup. Obviously, if we win that, then that's another run towards another final, which would be fantastic. And you look where we are in the league, and fair enough, the points between where we are and 5th is incredibly condensed. But even just winning a cup will give us an automatic European place, and I think any form of European football this season, given how bad it started,
hang on,
amazing.
Did you say even just winning a cup? Is this how blasé we've become about winning cups? After
winning
the
our
Carabao
second
Cup win
in
last
as
year,
many years, come along as like buses, would be lovely. It would be absolutely lovely. So I think out of those 3 games, the Leverkusen one is the kind of one that I'm prepared to like take the hit on. But yeah, so I would hope that we would play a full strength team, whatever a full strength team is actually going to look like, and hopefully get the win.
Mandava is the name of their left back, by the way, if that's how you pronounce it.
Sounds like a Mediterranean dance.
Yeah, I think it's the midfield 2 of Siddiqui and Xhaka are the ones that I think that centre midfield battle is going to be big. I think.
I need a word with you. I was ready to clip you on Saturday, Hutch, and I'm grassing on you to anyone listening here, because you spent the entire second half trying to keep an eye on the Man City Sunderland game on the BBC Sport site to see if either of those 2 had got the yellow card that would have got them suspended from our game, which I agree would be important, but we were playing Burnley, and that should have been your full focus and attention, you bad fan.
It was a bit boring, you have to admit.
The atmosphere was flat on Saturday. Like,
Probably because
Yeah,
everyone
because it was
looking at
pricks
those
on their
pictures.
phones looking at booking 200 miles away.
it would have been interesting if one of them did get booked and their cheer went up around the stadium.
Yeah. Bigger cheer than like whatever was
Yes,
happening on the pitch.
Bruno's goal. Yeah,
They did pick up a suspension. Now, unfortunately, it was just League One clogger Luke O'Nien who got himself sent off. So I don't think it'll affect their team in terms of their game plan. It does mean it like he's one of those players that puts in stupid tackles. That's what he did to Phil Foden to get the red card. So it increases the chances that none of our team leave there on crutches on Sunday, but it's not really going to help us out massively in terms of personnel. Here's one note, right? Is it possible that Sunderland just get too carried away with all this, and fundamentally we have a better team with better players, and they do a little bit maybe like what we did on Saturday, where they get a bit cocksure that they've had the better season, they're building up, they're going to win this derby, and we turn up and actually that works against them, and we just sort of, the old martial art, use the enemy's strength against them. And
yeah.
I think part of the issue is that we don't know enough about them, and that sounds ridiculous, but like back in the under the Mike Ashley era, where we were constantly fighting out to see who was going to be the Northeast top dog for that particular year, they knew us and we knew them like the back of our hands. And you could kind of like guess who was going to be up for the game, who was going to get the stupid red, who was going to get the booking, and all the rest of it. Whereas this season, other than Granit Xhaka, and from what we've seen on like Match of the Day, or if anyone's actually sat down and watched one of their games, because they've effectively replaced their entire team from the Championship, we don't know enough about them in order to basically turn around. I mean, granted, the squad will. But how those players are going to get up for this particular game is an entirely unknown entity. Now you know how Newcastle get up for a big game, and which is why I was going to ask later on, and I'm going to tell you now, I would not play Joe Linton in this match.
really,
No, I would not. I would play Tonali, I would play Bruno, and I would consider playing Miley. And I wouldn't play Joe Linton because I think he would go through Xhaka and fold them like a pack of cards and get the red.
I'd say I would be the opposite of that. I'd take him off after he gets booked at half, like when he's booked, which he will be by the time half time rolls around, and then swap him out because Xhaka just would have not fancied it for the entire time with Joe Linton breathing down his neck. To be honest, I think when we've played against Xhaka before, he's not fancied it against Joe Linton, and that I don't know if I've got my timing right or my memory right with that, but I just have this inkling that him and Joe Linton and Bruno are too much for Xhaka. So I would absolutely start Joe Linton, but it has to be Joe Linton, not looks a bit off it. Joe Linton, yeah. Just on Sunderland as well, right? So the last 4 games, they lost to Man City, they drew with Liverpool, but it's not Liverpool, and we know there's a problem there.
Yeah.
They beat Bournemouth, but Bournemouth had a man sent off, and they lost to Fulham. So any result is possible against Sunderland. However, any result is possible against Sunderland because it's Sunderland and it's us, and they're playing extremely well this season. So they're not unbeatable. They're not. I don't think they have a better squad than us. They are just playing extremely well in some games. So yeah, I think
I do think going into big games, this team tends to do well in big games.
Yeah,
and they're going to know that this is going to be massive for us. I just hope to God that we don't get some absolute clamour of a referee, the complete opposite of what we got, say, against Spurs and against Burnley, who just becomes absolutely card happy, like they used to back under the Mike Ashley era, and just basically ruins it.
They tend to let things go. They tend to let things go a bit in a derby, which maybe lends strength to the argument that you should play Joe Linton and let him go around like doing his WWE moves. But I tell you what, though, right? So I'm going. We all put in for tickets, but obviously it's sold out at an extremely high points range. and so I'm going to have to go on my own on the fun bus, which will be okay if we win. But as we get the end of that game, the way things have been lately, if it's 1-1 or if it's 1-0 to us or 2-1 to us, as you start approaching 80 minutes, you're just going to be crapping yourself, aren't you?
Yep.
And I think the lack of game management is going to be a serious worry. And you kind of need a little bit, I think, you need a little bit of head loss from Sunderland, I'm going to say. But it's going to, because I'll be honest, I've been there 6 times before for derbies, 4 wins and 2 draws. And a draw is okay, especially in a away draw. You think, fair enough, everyone just scores and then goes home. And winning's obviously fantastic, but even after a win, and you were there at the last one, Simon, in the FA Cup, but they gathered outside to make faces and hold up the many fingers at you. And it takes a really long time to A, get out the ground, B, get away from the ground, and C, for the bus to rumble back in Newcastle. So that is going to be a horrible, horrible, long, lonely afternoon for me if we do get turned over. At least you guys, albeit you would like to be there, at least you can just sort of flick the TV over at the other channel and try and think about something else. But yeah, it's very mixed feelings going into this one.
Yeah.
Just to finish with, though, but and we can still keep going on the Sunderland game, but as it is a comparison, I was going to come to you for comparisons with derbies in the past, memories, and I don't know which order you want to do this in, but I was going to ask you both for your best memory of Newcastle Sunderland games and your worst.
Well,
so
I'll go first, just because I think my best one is probably going to be the same as Hutch's, but I'm going to go with a slightly different experience because it was a first for me, and you just talked about it there, Jamie, which was the away game in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So that was my first trip to the Stadium of Light for any reason. I haven't been to see like Mariah Carey or anything like that. It was my first trip to the Stadium of Light, and the whole day was just a great experience. Like we got to St James's Park incredibly early, and it was already absolutely rammed. So the queue went all the way past the back of the Gallagate, all the way past the Strawberry, and I think I got. Did we get dropped off together, or did I get dropped off separately? But we were dropped off like well at the back of the queue, and the queue went all the way underneath St James's Park, around the Millburn, and then the coaches were like down the fast steps, picked up our free scarves on the way, which I eventually lost at the Arsenal away game, but that's a separate story. And then the bus directly there, and to be honest, once we got on the road, it was fantastically well organised, I thought. So you had the outriders, the motorbikes, like ahead of all the buses, no problem getting into where we needed to get parked. Barely saw some rabble of Sunderland fans outside the ground, but barely made eye contact with them before we were ushered into the ground. The only issue we did have is that they were very low on drinks by the time we got to the bar in the ground.
God, yeah.
And we were down to the dregs, so there was 3 of us in our mid-40s drinking pina coladas out of cans.
I'm going to have to pull you there.
Go on, sorry.
Porn star martinis.
Porn star martinis.
Not pina coladas.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's a good thing you're here for accuracy. But yeah, porn star martinis out of cans, which adds a kind of even bigger flair to the occasion, I think. But yeah, then it went on to the game, and there was still, I would say, even though obviously we were in different leagues at the time, there was still a modicum of anxiety, I think.
Absolutely.
Something could have happened. And obviously there was a Bellingham in the team at that point as well, and there was a lot of talk around him before the game. But that he should not be named, obviously got his goal, and we just rode over them. And it was a great day. And then everybody was buzzing on the bus on the way back, and then into town for a few beers afterwards. So that is a I bet probably one of the best experiences you could have going to the Stadium of Light. A dominant display and a great day all around.
Oh yeah, that was. I think it's a great choice. That was fantastic for me. The first time in so long as well that we'd beaten them anywhere.
Yeah,
or even played them, and yeah, tremendous. It would have been great if we could have went on to win the FA Cup. Just win a cup, and
it's what we do now. Just
in.
what we do now, so it's fine.
But we didn't. Hutch, what's your favourite game?
Well, as you know, I didn't go because unfortunately my daughter was in hospital. So I'm going to go all the way back to the lofty heights of 2010-11, where we played Sunderland and beat them at home 5-1.
Halloween.
Indeed. So Nolan 3, Amiobi 2. Someone called Darren Bent scored one in the 90th minute, but we don't really care about that. It actually quite works for the symmetry of Sunderland, so the 5-1. There was a streaker, if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. At the start of the second half, someone ran out of the Gallagher completely naked except for a pair of black socks.
You don't see that anymore, do you? Not that you want to, but you don't see it. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, so a lot of kettling and all the rest of it of the Sunderland fans up to the ground. By half-time, most of them had already gone. It was just, to be honest, of these games, because obviously, before the match, you're absolutely terrified about these games. And I think this was it wasn't quite the height of the where it became particularly violent and, rowdy. But it was
no horses were punched.
No horses were punched, essentially. Yeah.
I'll be coming back to that one later. But, yeah. So effectively, you turned up to these games, Sunday morning kickoffs, and as a consequence, you couldn't go to any pub other than Wetherspoons, where you bought a bacon sandwich and a pint. But it was around the time I was living in North Shields, so you would get off the metro, and police outnumbered the people on the street, and so there's obviously a real nervousness just all around the city, an edge all around the city. And then the game started, and it just became a bit of a circus. It was just a massive celebration from start to finish. And yes, they got their goal right at the end, but it didn't really matter. And Steve Bruce was in charge of them. I still think he hated us. He hated us even then. So it was just lovely. It was one of those games where you felt awful, you thought the worst, and it was spectacular.
I'm going to be a bit of a you on this, because the only silver lining for that day for me was I had 20 quid on Amiobi to score a hat trick. And he scored 2, and then Chris Hughton took him off. And it was one of them where I think we'd hit 5 reasonably early in the second half, and I was thinking, come on, let's make it 8, 9. And they just sort of took the foot off a little bit. But yeah, great day. Both of them are contenders for me, but I'll not copy yours, because the one I was going to say actually was for a bit of symmetry, because in what's the year? 2005 maybe, 2006. A friend was getting married, and I tried to get him a ticket for the Sunderland away game with me, on a ticket that I was using at the time of a friend who used to get them for pretty much every game. But the club sent me a letter saying exactly what's happened this year. Here's one ticket for you. The other ticket didn't qualify. And I spent about a week, a fortnight thinking, will I go or will I not? And I ended up doing what I'm doing on Sunday and jumping on the fun bus and going down. And it turned out to be the 4-1 Easter Monday, Alan Shearer's last game for Newcastle, last goal for Newcastle. We were 1-0 down for quite some time, and then Michael Chopra came off the bench. And there's a fantastic clip that I'd urge anyone to look for on YouTube, where Chopra, the camera watches him run onto the pitch at the halfway line, run right up towards the goal, and literally the ball breaks for him to score without really breaking his run. And that was his first goal for Newcastle. 2 minutes later, Shearer puts a penalty in to give us the lead. 2 minutes later, Charles Nzogbia scored. And about 10 minutes later, Albert Luque wrapped it up. And I swear down, right, I was stood in a seat at the Stadium of Light away end. And every one of those goals that went in, I ended up in a different place. Between two of them, I think between Shiraz and Nzogbia, I saw a lad I know, my mate Robbo, and I chatted to him for a bit. And then when the next goal went in, I didn't see him again all day. And it was just brilliant. That was our biggest away win there, I think, maybe ever, or since, days of yore and history. But yeah, so we've had dished out some right hidings. We've probably done this the wrong way around, but I'm going to say that let's just be brief on the worst ones. My worst one was when they ruined Christmas. We lost at home in a game where we'd actually played quite well under Pardew, and soon-to-be convicted child sex offender Adam Johnson ran the length of the pitch and on a breakaway in like the 89th minute and scored to make it 1-0. It was something like the 16th of December, and it was an incredibly low feeling. Please, 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 let's not replicate that on Sunday. Come on, lads, what's your worst ones? There's a few to choose from.
I've already touched on mine. 2012-2013 season, losing 3-0 at home.
Yeah.
The horse punching, the riots afterwards, and back on Mussolini doing his knee slide down the touchline. It was absolutely sickening. And then to kind of get like caught and getting kettled home because their fans decided rather than taking the buses, they were going to get the metros. And it just caused an absolute riot. And it was awful to start with. And then their behaviour and certain fans of ours behaviour, it was just awful. And I swear, like, it's the worst thing about these fixtures that, yes, it can invoke that kind of ire, but at the same time, it shouldn't. And let's hope it doesn't anymore. But you can see it coming.
It was a bit unexpected, that one, wasn't it? Because we'd been in Europe all year. We'd had a really good season the year before. Hadn't lost to them in a long time. And we'd just sort of like gone down fighting against Benfica in the Europa League quarter-final. And
again, that's one of the reasons why I picked this one, because the similarities with it, the Benfica game followed by them. And then obviously we're playing in Europe this week as well.
That's a big fear, isn't it? Because they are preparing for us now. I mean, probably not now, but and as of final whistle at the Etihad, their mind switched to us. We've got to think about Bayer Leverkusen until Wednesday night, and then we've got kind of 3 days to do an about turn and get ready for a derby. So let's hope the chaps are up to it. Come on, Simon, give us one more miserable memory before we sign out.
Well, those two are probably the worst.
We've nicked the best two, have we?
Yeah, I can't remember which one it was, but one of those, and they were both disastrous. Like the Defoe one, where he scores in the last minute, was just, it was just so ugly. But I remember, I think it was that one where I saw our own fans fighting each other because they were arguing over why we were so bad, and it went to fisticuffs, and the atmosphere was toxic. I think it must be 14-15, because 13-14 we'd been 16th then 10th, and then it was all falling apart again that season. It was like the end of Pardew, wasn't it? So I think it might have been that 1-0, but God, yeah, it was an unpleasant place to be, and I've never felt like that at St James's Park. I don't know about you boys, but you always feel safe as anything in your own fans at St James's Park. But it was the first time where I thought, "Wow, this is a bit spicy." When your own fans are fighting each other. So, yeah, ugly scenes, ugly times. So let's hope that never happens again.
that is something to cling on to here, that these are the right way around. So if things do go wrong on Sunday, we can hold on to the fact that we've got them. We can get them back later in the season at St James. Or if we end up taking a draw, we can, we can come back to that one. Just about run out of time, but FA Cup draw tomorrow night. Obviously, it's pointless to say who you would like because it's a random draw, and there's 63 other teams in there, so it would take a while. But we need an easy draw. We desperately need an easy draw because January is a month may consist of League Cup semi-finals. We've got 2 big Champions League games, and we could have a Champions League playoff in February over 2 legs. We really need a bit of a break going into all that by playing a League 2 side and resting most of our first team players. Agreed?
League 2 or Liverpool,
Or Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah. Gateshead or Walsall would be nice at home, I think. That's one of the
well, Walsall have won that game, so...
Have they? So Walsall.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
Walsall, it's got to be home, though. I'm not going all the way to Poland.
Yeah, I'll correct you later on that one off the air.
Right then. So I think that's about it. Unless I've missed out anything important and colossal in the world of Newcastle United. Hit the like and subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube for NUFC Talk TV, or subscribe to us if you're listening on podcasts. We will eventually get the sound right, won't we, lads?
One day.
And,
one day.
Who said that?
Sorry, there's a delay. But we'll be back next week to talk about that derby. We will drag ourselves to do it, or we might be quite keen to do it. Hopefully we will.
Good luck, everybody.
But fingers crossed for a big week ahead, yes. Hey, be careful out there. See you next time.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, bye.
Bye-bye.